Right. Tonight, you just sit back, you relax. Hopefully we'll have a bit of a laugh. There's nothing particularly serious about what we're doing. In that we can do basically what we want, use what colours we want, and so forth. But there is a serious side to what I am going to be doing tonight, which comes from my sort of last 10, 12 years experience of trying to paint and so forth. So hopefully you'll pick some of that up. We're going to divide the evening into two. So before the break, we're going to be doing doing a picture, but without any pencil drawing. We're going to be doing that by going straight in with the brush, which can seem a bit scary, but it's an exercise that I use quite often. If you find yourself, as we often do, where you just don't know what to paint, you want to do something, and so forth, you can't get your mind on it. Very often by taking some shapes and so forth, and then just putting some colour onto the paper without any form of drawing at all, but just trying to get the shape and so forth with the brush without pencil, is a good way of getting yourself motivated and getting started. But it also helps to train the brain as well. And it helps in brain, eye, hand coordination. So it actually, whilst you're not using a pencil, it does help your overall drawing skills. So whilst we can have fun with this, and we don't have to worry about the results, if you carry on and use it, as I do occasionally, then you can come up with some extraordinary results, and it will help your overall visualization of what we're trying to paint and so forth. Okay, now, normally we're drawing, well, when we're trying to get a shape onto the paper, we either use pencil or charcoal. And so if I take the lovely Sue Johnson here and destroy her, poor lady, I'm just going to take an eye, pencil, okay? And what we can do, of course, is, I'm just looking at that right eye there. I'll do it a bit big so that you can see it. Looking at all the angles, the eyes are in at an angle there, so I can do that, so forth, and then there's a little crack up there and so on, and then draw eyeball, iris and so forth, and put in the laughter lines, etc., and so forth. And we can carry on doing that and build it all up and so forth, and then perhaps get the rubber out and so on to correct it and so on and so forth. And that's the usual way that we put shapes and so forth onto the paper. However, if we try and be a wee bit braver and go straight in with the paintbrush, I'll use a burnt umber. We have to be very much more careful about how we look at shape, look at size, look at proportion, relationship between shapes and so forth. We really have to concentrate on what we're doing, because we only get one chance at this, really. So, I am drawing, but not with a pencil. And what I'm doing is really concentrating. Looking at where the lines are, where they meet and so forth. Because as I say, you only get really the one chance to do this. And it means you really have to concentrate. And it really gets difficult when you don't just do one eye, but you then start to do two eyes. There you are, just building it up. She's got some nice purple eyeliner. So we'll just show that in. Okay. So constantly looking at the original photograph, constantly looking, because, as I say, I only get the one chance to do it. So, and then we'll put a bit of a shadow, as you should have over the eye like that, and so forth. Right, so you're going straight in with the brush. You're having to really look, really concentrate, really look at shapes, and so forth. And therefore, it helps in brain, eye, hand coordination. The real problem then comes, we could all do an eye like that, but in putting in the next eye, because you've then got to really look at where it is. And this is where you need to build up your knowledge. So we know, for instance, that the distance between left and right eye, in most people, not everybody, is 1 eye width. And so we have to measure that and get it in the right area, get it in the right alignment. Her eyes are sort of slightly sloping down. And if you look at eyes, you'll find that in everybody, the left and right eye are different. They differ from each other. There's usually one slightly squint, one slightly at a different angle, and so forth. They're not perfect by any manner of means. Okay, and so we can go on. But if you don't get that right, and again, if you go down to the nostrils, if you don't get that distance right, you're stuffed. It's not going to look like the thing at all. So it means that you really have to concentrate. I can't emphasise that enough. But I'm not going to get you to do Sue tonight. You don't have to worry about that. We're going to build up a simple picture. And what I often do as an exercise is just to grab a whole load of photographs off the internet or whatever, Google them, and shove them together. Work on a painting by taking different things, lampposts, people, boats, or whatever else, and putting them together and build up and make up a picture as I go. So that's what we'll do tonight. We want a reasonable sized bit of watercolour paper, and we're going to start off by using what I've used here before, and that is Blobs. Some of you won't know about Blobs. Blobs are an easy way to build up a picture with people. We often get very worried about people, about putting people into paintings. And using Blobs is an easy, quick way to do it quite effectively. Okay. Bob is Robert Taylor, who is an Australian artist. If you ever get a chance to look at DVDs or pictures from Australian artists, they are very difficult to beat. Australian artists, Charles Slugger, and people like Buvik and so forth, who aren't Australian but live out there. There's a particular light in Australia, which means that their paintings very often zing. And of course, the Australians, being Australians, tend to be very relaxed and laid back. You know, yeah, copy, just chuck some water at it and everything else. And then when they finish with it, it looks absolutely incredible. So if you get a chance to see any Australian artists, not just watercolour artists, but all artists, have a real look at what they do. It's quite exciting. Robert Taylor, I think he's possibly, he may even be dead by now, but he was a real doyen of both abstract and impressionist painting in Australia, so well worth a look at. So he came up with Blobs. Blobs is quite simple, and as I say, it's a way of putting in people, putting in loads of people. You can put in hundreds of people, and yet we all get very worried about doing this. So I'm going to do a quick demonstration here showing you Blobs, and then I'll get another bit of paper, and then we'll build up this picture together. Okay? So, these are middle distance people. I'll have some there, some over here. Okay? And what we do is we take lovely juicy colour. So there's some almost cad red, and I'll run in some blue. I'm being really quite loose in shapes and so forth, not really worried about it. Let's have purple. And we'll have some brown. And you might, before we start doing the main painting, you might just want to take a bit of scrap paper and have a go at this. Okay, there we go. Right. So there's the start of our people. What we then do is we put some legs in. And we usually put them in quite dark. So I'm using ultramarine blue, a bit of burnt umber. So that's all nice and wet, nice and juicy. bring some legs down. You don't have to have 2 legs for every torso, because of course the person, one of the people there, might actually be side on, so you only see the one leg. Small end, so a little bit dry. And it's nice when the paint of the torso runs down. Okay. And then to finish off, we'll put some heads in. We'll have those 2 people talking to each other, so their hairs are like that. Go on there. Sometimes leave a little gap between the torso and the person. Okay, you see it's very impressionistic, very, very quick. But what you end up with, hopefully from your distance anyway, is the people. And then, as we build that up, we can decide which way the sun's coming from. And then we can put in a shadow on the background. Okay. Alright? Very, very simple, very, very quick, but quite effective. And then you can carry on from that. And I built up pictures where you've got this going on, and then you put buildings in. In fact, when Charles Sluger showed me doing this in Tuscany, he did this. And then he actually painted freehand a cathedral behind. Incredible. With all windows and figurines and everything else. And so forth, and then bushes and so forth down here. All done without drawing. It's it can become quite relaxing, and you get right into it. It's a good exercise. But it also, as I say, enables you to just feel free about your painting. You don't have to worry too much about accuracy. What we're doing is just an impressionistic view of a particular subject. Thing to note is that, I haven't got this quite right here, it doesn't matter, but on level ground, talking about adults, the heads are all more or less level with each other. So that if I now put a person closer to the foreground in, the top of their head will be level with all the other heads. But the body will come down from that. So this is somebody who is more in the foreground, closer to the viewer. Okay. But the top of the head is all more or less in the same line. Just that things are bigger. Now, because it's important that the tops of the heads are all more or less in the same line, these ones here I started off by painting the torso. This one here, I started off by painting the head, because the head becomes a measurement of the body. There are 7 heads, or between 7 heads, in the body height. So if I take the head, chop it off, it'll fit in your body roughly 7 to 8 times. So that gives me a measurement going down there. Also, the width of the head, although this person's slightly turned, the width of the body is roughly 3 times the width of the head, roughly. So I start with the head, because that gives me my system of measurement, and then work my way down from there. Notice also that we can see that this guy here, or lady or whatever, is walking. There's a shadow coming out there. That leg there is up in the air, which means that it's raised, which means that they're moving forward usually. Okay. I might need to bend the knee slightly to make that slightly better. Okay. Any questions there so far? You're quiet. That's all we do. We're just going to relax. We're going to.
That's all there is to it.
We're going to. Okay. It's once you get hold of it, once you get the concept of doing this, then as I say, it becomes quite enjoyable. If you have people behind this lot here who are higher up, it means that the ground here is going uphill. If the people at the back here behind these lot are lower down than these ones here, it means you're going downhill. This is all part of visual language. Remember what we're trying to do when we're painting something like this. We're trying to give the impression of a three-dimensional scene on a two-dimensional piece of paper. And in order to do that, so that the thing reads well, we use a language, we use signs and symbols. And so if I for instance, let's just try that. This won't look right at all, but if I have some heads over here, and then bring the bodies down, either they become children, or if they're the same length as the other ones, it starts to indicate, for that to read right, you'd have to indicate that that land is either coming down this way or going down the way. It will be coming down this way. So that's actually beginning to indicate that there's a hill. We're rising up to it. Okay, because the heights of the heads are not in line with these ones here. Either that or they're children. Okay.
Are they always walking away from you?
No. It's up to you. Think about it. When you're looking at a crowd of people, it's very difficult to find out or really see whether they're walking towards you or going away from you. If they're walking towards you, if I just draw a person, what you can do to indicate that is that a slight V, and instead of doing a blob for the head, if you do an upside down U shape, like that. Can you see how that's beginning to look, if you can see from a distance, that's beginning to look as though the person's coming towards you. Okay? Just quick indication. And also age too shows up. So for instance, if I have, I'll give them an sort of brown carding. So there's the torso. If I bury the head into the shoulders, really bury it so it's like that. And then give them a little stick. It becomes an old man. It's just visual language. Okay? Right, so I'm going to change the paper and then start this off. Get it going. You can have a go with Blobs, but as you start doing that, I'll then carry on, and you'll see on that first sheet that there are various objects there which you can use. So that we've got some crowds of people, there's a girl with balloons, there's an older man walking away from you, a pub, there's a merry-go-round, a market, a little bunch of a family, male, female and child and so forth, lady with a dog, which you can incorporate and use in your picture if you wish. But if you don't want, if you're concerned about doing that, having done your Blobs, you can just sit back and watch what I do. And we'll build this picture up so it becomes hopefully quite convincing. Okay. So I'm just going to change the paper. Okay. So use any colours you want. I'm going to start over here. Okay, I'm just putting in little marks. I'm going to have 3 or 4 crowds of people. Okay, so this is how I'm starting with. Being very rough, you don't have to think, oh, they're going to look like people at this stage, because they automatically become people as you work on it. whilst the torsos are still wet, up in some legs. And you want to use quite wet colour. Okay, so that's basically my, I might add to those actually a little bit. Quick, use plenty of water. Don't worry about getting the shape exactly right.